What is up guys, Andy Forresty Runner here, and today we're going to be diving in and comparing the Asics NOVABLAST to the Asics DYNABLAST. So welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be taking a deeper dive into the world of flight foam blast. We're going to be comparing these two shoes, the Novablast and the Dynablast, on more of a technical level, more so than performance, purely down to the fact that I have 250 miles in this shoe, lots of testing done, and I only have one run in this shoe because it came during taper week. But instantly after that one run, there are some things that screamed out at me that made me want to make a comparison video just for you guys from a technical perspective rather than performance, so that I could share the differences between the two and kind of showcase why they're both, despite having the same midsole, such a different ride. So today what we'll do very quickly is I'll whiz through the technical overviews of both the shoes in a very non-technical way, and then I will give you the pros and cons of both of these things, and of course naturally which one I would prefer to buy moving forwards. So if you're excited for today's video guys, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and we'll start with the Novablast. So a quick run through on the Novablast shoe before we get into the pros and cons. We have a medium plush heel counter area, pretty standard for Asics. It's thinner than what you will see in the Dynablast, but super comfy around here. We have the Flight Foam Blast midsole that runs heel to toe, the revolutionary midsole that I absolutely fell in love with. We have an engineered mesh upper, which is different to the Dynablast, and we have what some of you guys call cheese wire laces. I love the laces. I don't know what the problem is, a lot of you guys with the laces, but a lot of you guys find that the Novablast laces, well, you've actually relaced them, you've told me, some of you, but we've got the laces, standard lacing system, engineered mesh upper, well ventilated. It looks to be like a dual layer upper. We've got some mesh underneath and then mesh over the top. As I said, Flight Foam Blast midsole, and then we have AHA rubber outsole. And moving swiftly on to the Dynablast, we have a much thicker heel counter area, much more plush. So with the Novablast being a bit more medium plush, you can see the thickness of this cushioning around the heel and ankle collar area. It is thicker. I like it. A lot of you guys find it a little bit excessive. I understand that. I'm used to Asics shoes. I like the comfort that they provide. Asics are just a comfy brand for me. I've worn tons of their shoes in the past, and I'm getting back into the brand now as they are becoming a lot more innovative moving forwards, which is exciting. So again, very plush in and around here, very similar tongue to the Novablast, same lacing system, same laces, very similar lacing system. Yeah, looks very similar to me in terms of the Novablast. The main difference here, we have a knitted upper. This is much more stretchy and moldable. Love the upper on this shoe. That was a real winner for me, very reminiscent, as I said in the last video, of the 1080 version 10. We have a 12mm heel to toe drop with the Flight Foam Blast midsole running throughout, and then very similar to the Novablast, in fact exactly the same, AHA rubber outsole. So let's move on to the pros and cons, the bit that is important between these two shoes. We'll start off very quickly with the Novablast. So for those of you who have watched all my Novablast videos before, I won't bore you with a repeat of everything that I've said. If you haven't seen those videos, feel free to search up on YouTube FOD Runner Novablast. You'll find a bucket load of videos on this shoe. I've done so much testing, it's unreal. The long and short of it is I don't have a negative with this shoe. The one thing that a lot of you guys pointed out to me, and I will say the same with the Dynablast, is sizing in Asics shoes. Feel free to go half a size down at a minimum, if not a full size down. So with this shoe, I found it really comfy, super roomy toe box. A lot of you found a roomy toe box. This is wider than the Dynablast, and I actually have slightly more than a thumb width at the end when my feet are in it. So I have plenty of room. A 12.5 would be sufficient for me. I'm a UK size 13. 12.5 would be more than sufficient, potentially even a 12. A lot of you guys tried the full size on, true to size, which is what I went, found you had to size down, and when you size down, you've got that better snug fit. It's exactly the same in the Dynablast. For me, it's longer, but the Dynablast is narrower. So just bear that in mind. If you're going to size down, you're going to lose a tiny bit of width. Thankfully, in the Dynablast, though, you have that knitted upper, so you're not going to be stretching the upper material too much because it's going to be moulding to the top of your foot. So with that out of the way, other than that, literally the Novablast is my favourite shoe, up there with the Endorphin Speed this year for shoe of 2020. And what revolutionised it for me was, of course, the Flight Foam Blast midsole. Like running on marshmallow, super soft, super springy, super bouncy. Found myself taking this thing on all sorts of different runs. Meant to be an easier day trainer. I was doing 400 metre repeats in this thing. Long runs, workouts, mile repeats, you name it, I did it in this shoe. And I absolutely love this thing. So when, of course, I got the Dynablast, I was hoping for a very similar experience. However, I didn't get that. And we're not, as I said, going to talk about performance because I haven't given this thing enough of a run out to kind of give you my overall thoughts on that. That will come in due course next week or the week after when I'm back up and running with running. But talk about the main differences. As I said, it's the upper. The width of the shoe is slightly narrower. You can see the stack height is slightly less on the Dynablast. If I put these two shoes close together, you will see we are a couple of mil difference between the two shoes. So slightly less stack in this thing. Not a lot though. But the main difference is the 12mm heel to toe drop. So we have a 10 in the Novablast, which, if I'm honest with you, 10 is quite high anyway, but I didn't notice it. The softness of the cushion, it just didn't feel like that steep of a drop. But this feels steep. It feels a lot steeper. And if you watch my first impressions, you'll know that I was very aware when running of this big wedge of foam in the heel area. So it's a completely different running experience to the Novablast. And as I said in that video, I can't work out who this is going to suit. It might suit heel strikers because you've got so much foam here. I tried to heel strike in the shoe. It felt very comfortable, but gave me a lot of pain when I was trying to do it. So I stopped very quickly. For heel striker, it might be absolutely ideal. But for me personally, it just didn't give me the best experience like I wanted it to with the Novablast. So the main differences between the two shoes is you've got a much more plusher heel counter area around here. The knitted upper is totally different to the upper on the Novablast. I do actually really like the Dynablast, and I have to be honest with you, it's certainly it's certainly on an equal par to how I feel with the Novablast. Maybe just actually, I prefer this upper. I love knitted, stretchy uppers. They just wrap to my feet nicely. But as I said, beware, this is narrower than the Novablast. And then, of course, the 12mm heel to toe drop. Those are the massive differences between the two shoes. So as I alluded to with my eyes in the intro, this thing obviously wins hands down in terms of the pros and cons and how I feel about the shoe. Now, to be fair to the Dynablast, I just haven't given it enough time, but the first run in the shoe was a bit of a shock to me, and I'm hoping that it beds in. I'm able to get some more good mileage out of it, obviously get it to 100 miles, give it some good testing. It's just going to take a little bit of time to get there because I found the drop did irritate my calves a little bit. But the Novablast for me is still just an absolute winner of a shoe, and I've got to be honest with you, the Flight Foam Blast in this thing is incredible. So it was a little bit of a disappointment with the Dynablast to get that first impressions that I did. The main difference obviously between the two shoes is that this thing is heavier than the Dynablast. We're talking 346 grams or 12.2 ounces in the Novablast, and then I think in the Dynablast we're talking, if I remember rightly, 10 point something ounces, 308 grams. I can't remember the ounces exactly. So there is quite a big difference in weight. The Dynablast does certainly feel lighter, and they've been very clever in how they shift the weight between the two. So in my head, when I looked at the Dynablast, I was thinking it's more of a slimlined Novablast. It's going to be lighter, and this is going to be epic. And sadly, I think due to the drop of the shoe mainly, we've lost out on what could have been, in my opinion, an absolute magic shoe. Now, a lot of us always joke in the comments, you imagine a Novablast, trimmed down, lightweight upper, carbon fiber plate. What a racing shoe that would be. And who knows, we might see that at some point. But of course, for now, I'm going to be sticking with the Novablast as my favorite Flight Foam Blast shoe of the year. Of course, I know there's a Road Blast, a shoe that I didn't try. From what I gather, though, that is utilizing Flight Foam Blast, but not full length. It does have another midsole in there. It's like a dual density thing going on there. So ultimately, the Novablast still wins hands down. We'll get some more testing in the Dynablast, as I said, but a little bit disappointing going from this with such hype into the Dynablast, which, if I'm honest with you, was a little bit of a letdown. But fingers crossed, next year Asics will come up with the goods, deliver more shoes with Flight Foam Blast with a little bit less stack height that we're all going to be able to enjoy. So there we go, those are my thoughts on the two shoes, more from a technical standpoint than a performance, but of course, as I said, more to come from the Dynablast, hopefully over the coming weeks, and I will get you my thoughts on that as soon as I can. But naturally, we're going to be looking towards the Novablast, getting that shoe up and over 300 miles before the end of the year. That is the goal. I want to take this thing for more miles. It's such an enjoyable shoe, and Asics hit an absolute home run with it. Let's hope, fingers crossed, that they can deliver more beautiful shoes like that in 2021. And of course, as always, if you guys have both of the shoes, share your thoughts down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. Was the Dynablast just as good as the Novablast for you? Was it better? Or did it not quite live up to the hype? Which for me, obviously, I fall into that camp. Let me know in the comments below and let's get that conversation flowing. So if you enjoyed today's video, guys, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content. And as always, I'll see you on the next one. Until then,